Hello, you're watching Shalom World News. I'm Dana Villa from Chicago, Illinois. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Saudi Arabia on Monday for his fifth visit to the Middle East since the conflict between Israel and Hamas in Gaza began in October 2023. Blinken met with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, aiming to secure a truce before a potential Israeli assault on Rafah. The meeting focused on regional coordination to achieve a lasting resolution to the crisis, addressing humanitarian needs in Gaza and preventing further escalation. Meanwhile, Israeli airstrikes in the Gaza Strip resulted in numerous casualties on Monday, February 5th, including the deaths of children aged 12 and 2. Gaza's health ministry announced that 113 bodies were brought to hospitals in 24 hours, bringing the death toll to 27,478. Despite international calls for a ceasefire, Israel continues its aerial bombardment on Gaza. Archbishop Laurent Ulrich has unveiled the schedule for the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral, set to take place on December 8, 2024, 10 months from now. This significant event for the French capital's iconic Gothic masterpiece will mark the end of a period of extensive restoration following the devastating fire on April 15, 2019. The reopening festivities will span for 6 months, from December 8, 2024 through June 8, 2025, coinciding with the Feast of Pentecost and aligning with the 2025 Jubilee observed by the Universal Church. In a pastoral letter published on February 2nd, the Archbishop of Paris outlined various initiatives and invited the faithful to partake in the cathedral's re-inauguration celebration. Chinese authorities have reportedly detained 200 members of the Justification by Faith network after a raid on the gathering of the Christian villagers. According to the report, the arrests were made because of the church that did not adhere to a government-sanctioned theological doctrine. Since President Xi Jinping assumed power in 2013, rights groups have noted increased persecution of religious groups, especially those who have not registered with state-run bodies. The crackdown on the religious freedom escalated after 2018, when the Chinese Communist Party implemented new regulations requiring registration and prohibition of any unapproved religious activities. Despite China's constitution guaranteeing freedom of religion or belief, the officially atheist state is among the world's worst offenders of religious freedom, according to rights groups. Cardinal Czerny, who is on an 8-day pastoral visit in South Sudan, emphasized the roles of citizens and parties involved in the ongoing peace talks to remain true to the Revitalized Agreement on the Resolution of Conflict in South Sudan, or the R-ARCSS. South Sudan, the world's newest and youngest nation, is preparing for its general election in December 2024. The R-ARCSS, signed in September 2018, aims to end the civil war that started in December 2013 when President Salva Kiir accused his then Vice President Riek Machar of planning a coup. Cardinal Czerny emphasized that a peaceful transfer of power signals political maturity, good governance, and holistic development. Czerny's visit from February 2nd through the 9th coincides with the first anniversary of the visit to the country of Pope Francis. A medical charity reported on Monday, February 5th, that 13 children are dying of severe malnutrition every day at the Zamzam camp in Sudan's northern Darfur, a tragic consequence of the 10-month war ravaging the country. In response to the escalating humanitarian crisis, the head of the UN Refugee Agency cautioned that Europe may face an influx of Sudanese refugees if a ceasefire agreement is not promptly reached between the warring factions elections in Sudan and if relief efforts are not bolstered. According to Claire Nicolay, head of the emergency response in Sudan for Doctors Without Borders, or Médecins Sans Frontières, one child is tragically dying every 2 hours in the camp. The conflict in Sudan, which began last April in Khartoum before spreading to other parts of the country, has resulted in over 9 million internally displaced people and 1.5 million refugees fleeing to neighboring countries within 10 months. Concerns are growing in the UK regarding the credibility of asylum seekers who claim to have converted to Christianity. Reports suggest that many migrants residing on a barge are attending church services, leading to doubts about the authenticity of these conversions. The matter gained widespread attention following the case of an Afghan migrant who was found linked to a chemical attack in southwest London last week. Despite prior convictions for sexual offenses, he was granted asylum after converting to Christianity. This case has also sparked inquiries into the role of UK churches in supporting migrants' conversion claims, causing some officials to question the sincerity of these conversions. Cardinal Malcolm Ranjit of Sri Lanka has called for a change in the country's leadership ahead of this year's presidential election. During a service commemorating the nation's 76th Independence Day, the Cardinal questioned the ethics of celebrating freedom amidst economic crisis and a political stalemate. He also lashed out against the futility of military parades and show-offs while people are starving. In a separate incident, police dispersed a protest by students and political leaders from Jaffa University using tear gas and water cannons. The protesters had termed the country's 76th Independence Day as a Black Day. The country, which declared bankruptcy in April 2022, is currently under a caretaker government. 5 years after his arrest and charges of spying, Australian writer Yang Hengjun was sentenced to 5 years in prison with a suspended death sentence by a Chinese court. After 2 years, the sentence might be commuted to life in jail, according to Australian officials. The accusations against Dr. Yang, a novelist and academic who wrote a blog about the Chinese state matters, have not been made public. The result has, quote, appalled the Australian government. It follows Prime Minister Antony Albanese's historic trip to China in late 2017 to mend strained ties that had been getting worse in recent years. China's ambassador to Australia has been called by Foreign Minister Penny Wong for an explanation, and on Monday she said that the government would be communicating its response to Beijing in the strongest terms. In Australia, the Outlands Memorial for the Abdallah and Sekar children was unveiled to the public on February 3rd. The monument is built to honor the 4 children from Abdallah and Sekar families, namely Anthony, Angelina, Sienna, and Veronique, who were hit and killed by a drunk driver as they were walking on a footpath in the Sydney suburb. The Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who was present for the ceremony, lauded Danny and Lila Abdallah and Bridget Sekar for their magnanimous act of Christian forgiveness. The parents of the children set up I Forgive Foundation to help those who are suffering. The approval for the memorial was received last year after several years of toil and struggle. In Seoul, South Korea, Archbishop Peter Chung-soon-taik ordained 60 new priests and 25 deacons for the archdiocese last week. The ceremony was held at the Notre-Dame Cathedral on February 1st and 2nd. The new ordinations come as a blessing as the Seoul Archdiocese is preparing to host World Youth Day in 2027. The number of priests in the archdiocese has surged from 900 969 to 985. The press release published by the Archdiocese said that the newly ordained are given duties of proclaiming the gospel, administering sacraments, and serving the church as collaborators of the bishop. American Christian rapper Lecrae won 2 Grammys at the 66th Annual Grammy Awards on Sunday, February 4th. The event took place in Los Angeles, where the 44-year-old bagged the awards for Contemporary Christian Album with Church Clothes 4 and Contemporary Christian Music Performance and Song for Your Power with Tasha Cobb. In a social media post, the Christian rapper, upon expressing his gratitude, said, "Thank you, Jesus, for allowing me to be a part of your kingdom and using broken instruments to play healing music." He added, "God is beyond kind." Church Clothes 4 won Hip Hop Album of the Year at the Dove Awards last year. In 2012, Lecrae won the Grammy Award for Best Gospel Album for his album Gravity at the 2013 Grammy Award. The first 3 episodes of the faith-based show The Chosen Season 4 climbed to second place at the box office behind Universal Picture and Apple's original films co-production Argyle. The Dallas Jenkins directorial venture collected nearly $7.5 million in the 4-day ticket sales. According to BoxOfficePro.com, the first 3 episodes pulled in $1,433,216 from its release on Thursday, February 1st. The Season 4 Trinity, starring Jonathan Brumi, will remain in theaters until Ash Wednesday, February 14. The next 3 episodes will hit the screens on February 15, and the final 3 on the 29th of this month. The show, that was screened in over 2,300 locations in Fathom Events' largest release. The Chosen, which showcases the life of Jesus and his disciples, is the largest crowd-funded television project in history. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us tomorrow. In the meantime, you can visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.